Cofagrigus is one of the topmost threats in the Ultra League meta, and it is a big XL Pokemon, level 50 type Pokemon, so it is a pretty steep investment to build a Cofagrigus. Therefore, you want to make sure that you build it right so you don't have to build it twice. You don't want to find out later that you picked the wrong IV spread on your Cofagrigus. So here I have the Cofagrigus PvP IV Deep Dive focusing on the Ultra League Cofagrigus. If you are curious about the Great League Cofagrigus, I already did that video, link up above and in the description if you want to learn up on Great League Cofagrigus, and if you want to reference any of this information in a text-based format, link in the description to my article on GamePress. The Cofagrigus PvP IV Deep Dive has basically all this information and the Great League information and a couple little extra tidbits here and there. Without further ado, let's get into Ultra League Cofagrigus. Starting out with the basics here, the rank 1 Cofagrigus is the 10-15-15, which means that you can get some of the better Cofagrigus IV spreads off of your research rewards and off of future raids. And when it comes to some of the best Cofagrigus IV spreads, you can also get them from a lucky trade, which means that getting really good IVs on your Cofagrigus isn't all that difficult. Now you might be thinking 10-15-15, I could bring that attack stat a little bit lower and best buddy it, right? And that could be the best Cofagrigus, right? Well, not exactly. Looking at all the different matchups, the best buddy level 51 Cofagrigus, those types of Cofagrigus, they're really not better. They're pretty much equivalent to any other Cofagrigus. It is only 2 power-ups worth of power there when you best buddy something. So I feel like the best buddy would be better spent on a Pokemon that caps before the cap, such as Umbreon or Galar Stumpfisk. No real reason to best buddy Cofagrigus. And given how accessible or relatively accessible better IV spreads are for Cofagrigus at level 50, if you were to find yourself with like the rank 1 level 51 Cofagrigus there, I think you could easily pass that up for a different IV spread on Cofagrigus. Getting into the IVs individually here, starting out with the Atk IV. Overall, the Atk IV isn't really that big of a deal for Cofagrigus. As far as breakpoints are concerned, you could pump up your attack to a whole nother level and potentially get breakpoints on Alola Ninetales, Melmetal, Gengar, and Dragonite, but to consistently get those breakpoints on those Pokemon, you need to bring your attack stat so ridiculously high that you sacrifice just way too much bulk for it to be reasonable. So there really isn't an attack breakpoint to really chase after when it comes to Cofagrigus. That said, having a slightly higher attack stat on your Cofagrigus than the rank 1, for instance, doesn't go to waste at all, because Cofagrigus, on paper at least, looks to be so powerful in the Ultra League that eventually you're going to see Cofagrigus all over the place, like you kind of see Jellicent and other big XL Pokemon all over the place. And to that end, having that higher attack stat can give you CMP in the Cofagrigus mirror, which is an extremely dicey mirror for the most part because CMP doesn't exactly guarantee it. You also need to have some bulk in there too. It is a pretty complicated mirror, mostly thanks to Shadow Ball plus Dark Pulse being Cofagrigus' ideal moveset, and then the Dark Pulse having a 5 lower energy cost than the Shadow Ball. So the mirror matchup is anything but guaranteed most of the time. But if you do have a slightly higher attack stat on your Cofagrigus, getting CMP is one piece to the mirror puzzle there. So having slightly higher attack, not too bad. Having crazy higher attack, probably not worth it. Then when it comes to the defense IV, there are defense breakpoints for Articuno, Jellicent, Venusaur, and Sylveon. However, basically all the Cofagriguses that I'm going to be promoting to you in this video are going to be hitting those defense breakpoints anyways, so I don't think it's anything to really worry about or think about. So yeah, the defense, it could matter if I were to be promoting like high attack Cofagrigus, but I'm not, because I don't think super high attack Cofagrigus is all that good. So yeah, the defense, you should be hitting it anyways. But if you are thrifting on your Cofagrigus, like you really want to build one, and you don't have any of the IVs that I'm going to be showing off to you, and despite your better judgment of, like I don't think it'd be a good idea to build it because that's a whole lot of XL candy, but I guess if you're impatient, then make sure you at least have this defense stat, I guess. But you really should use the 20 IV spreads that I'm going to show you in the next section here. And before I forget, the HP IV, I didn't write down anything for it. I think I just kind of made up my mind with how Cofagrigus is supposed to be for the Ultra League, and all the top spreads that I looked at had like higher than 138 HP anyways, but the lowest HP Cofagrigus that I considered was 137. So I guess if you are thrifting, I know that 137 at least is safe for what your raw dog HP stat is going to be, but all the HP spreads that I promote to you here are going to be 138 and 139. So HP. So these are the top 20 SwagTips approved Cofagrigus IV spreads for the Ultra League. All of these are level 50 Cofagriguses. When it comes to the little color coordination here, the ones that are highlighted in yellow are just ones that you can get off of a lucky trade. So I'm trying to like emulate the idea of, ooh, look at it's lucky trade. When it comes to getting any one of the top 20 here, I'd say you have like roughly a 14% probability per research or per raid. And then when it comes to lucky trading, for the lucky IV spreads here, I think you have like roughly a 9 to 10% probability per lucky trade to get them. So I feel like if you're stacking those odds together, I feel like it's very likely, very easy to get a good IV Cofagrigus, or like the top 20 Cofagrigus that I'm showing off here. So pretty good odds. Then when it comes to this little red guy down here, like, ooh, why is that highlighted? It's just because it's got a very low defense stat compared to the other Cofagrigus featured here. So much so that some Pokemon might be able to get a little bit of a breakpoint on you, which, you know, isn't all that great. So it's like, hey, if you've got, you know, the rank 22 and then like the rank 33 or something like that, I'd probably build the rank 33 before the 22. I'd build any one of these 20 before the rank 22. Not that the rank 22 is terrible, because chances are the defense breakpoint thing isn't going to come up. It's not going to be a big deal. But, you know, I'd probably build the rank 51 before I built the rank 22. So as far as the top 20 go, 22 is the lowest on the totem pole here. And then I have the rank 2 highlighted in green because I feel like out of all of them, the rank 2 is probably the best overall. Reason being is that it has a slightly higher attack stat than the rank 1, which means it gets CMP on the rank 1, so it can beat the rank 1 more often than not. And then because it's so tanky, you know, it's got the big defense, it's got the big HP, then it's able to do well in a whole bunch of other mirror matchups. When it comes to the Cofagrigus mirror, like, you can check it out on PvPoke yourself, but it's a hot mess. Like, even before you consider like prior energy or prior damage, it's just a wild ride to look at all the different ways that the mirror matchup can play out, because Shadow Ball can KO them, Dark Pulse can KO them, sometimes they don't. And then also when it comes to your attack stat versus defense stat, there are Shadow Ball and Dark Pulse breakpoints, so that like 1 or 2 extra damage on the charge move can also tip the scales as well. So it isn't exactly 100% clear which Cofagrigus is going to come out right in the mirror. So when you do build a Cofagrigus, I'd say pay attention to what your like attack weight is on your Cofagrigus, so you at least know if you're going to get CMP in the mirror or not, or your likelihood of getting CMP in the mirror or not, and then kind of base your strategy off of that a little bit. And then if you do build a Cofagrigus for the Ultra League, definitely study the mirror matchup on PvPoke as well, because it is complicated. And if you know your outs, what will KO you, what will KO your opponent, you know, what kind of position throwing a certain charge move could put you in between Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball, that's definitely going to be good knowledge to brush up on when you're whipping out your Cofagrigus here. Now, it would be pretty rude of me to not let you guys know that there are 6 other quote-unquote worthy IV spreads. Like, the top 20 could actually be considered the top 26. There's the rank 3, the rank 9, the rank 13, the rank 23, and the rank 27. And the reason why I omitted them from like this upper echelon of IV spreads is that even though all these Cofagrigus are perfectly valid, they have an attack stat that is equal to the rank 1, which means you're not going to be getting CMP on the rank 1 100% of the time. You're going to get it 50% of the time. And then every other Cofagrigus featured here is likely going to have a higher attack stat than you, which means they're going to get CMP on you, and you're not really getting anything extra out of the deal. You don't have more bulk than the rank 1. You have the same attack stat. So I'd say all things considered, you're kind of like the clown Cofagrigus. Like, the top 20 here, I'd say are all roughly equivalent to each other. Like, I would consider any one of these top 20 to be like really, really good or the best or possibly the best. Obviously the rank 2 being a little bit higher on the list there. But yeah, when it comes to those 5, I feel like the attack stat kind of holds them back a little bit. Like if I had the option, I'd build something else. So here's the 20 other things I'd build. And then the 6th one is the rank 20. And the reason why I took the rank 20 off the list is that it does have a lower defense stat. It is slightly higher than the rank 22s. It's like 208.08 or something like that. But it also has a 138 HP stat. And then when it came to checking out all the different mirror matchups, that low defense with that 1 less HP stat was enough for it to lose a lot of mirror matchups. So once again, the idea of having the Cofagrigus that's really, really good, but loses the mirror matchup more often than not, I don't feel like that's SwagTips approved premium Cofagrigus, especially when it comes to a level 50 XL Pokemon that you're going to be pouring all of this time and all of your resources into. Like, I would probably not want to build the rank 20 just because of its flaws in the mirror matchup. Of course, we can only get so many Cofagriguses from raid research rewards. There's only so many lucky trades we can reasonably line up for Cofagriguses over the season here. So like, why wait forever? If you do have any of these 6 spreads, but you don't have, you know, the SwagTips approved top 20, and you legitimately, realistically feel like you're not going to get them, they're perfectly okay. They're not terrible IV spreads. So yeah. Trying to gun for any one specific IV spread I feel is totally unreasonable because there's so many different IV spreads. I mean, the fact that these are in like the raid level is very helpful. Like, we're not looking at 0 to 15, we're looking at, you know, 10 to 15 on each individual IV, so the odds of getting one specific one are a lot higher than it is for any other kind of Pokemon. But still, getting one specific IV spread is a ridiculous goal to strive for, but getting any one of these 20 I think is perfectly reasonable. Then of course, there is one spicy Cofagrigus IV spread, one that I really wouldn't advise building because it's so weird and so spicy, but if XL Candy does become more easy to come by in the future, to the point where building 2 Cofagriguses doesn't sound absolutely insane, well, you may want to keep your eyes peeled for the 15-3-10, the maximum attack, level 51, best buddy Cofagrigus. Now, this Cofagrigus is insane. If you have this Cofagrigus already, you got that IV spread on a Yamask or something, for the love of all that is good, I would not build it right now. Build one of the bulky Cofagriguses first. But if you're going to build an attack-weighted Cofagrigus, that's going to be the Cofagrigus to build. You could probably get away with a slightly worse IV spread that achieves basically the same goal, but you really do want to get that 150.4 attack stat, which I'm pretty sure, or, well, okay, there's probably lesser spreads, like the 15-2-10 or the 15-0-0 would get this attack spread. Duh. But yeah, no, the reason why this attack stat's so interesting is that it gets CMP in the mirror, which is helpful, and it also has such a great attack weight that its charge move break points allows it to take on even more mirror matchups. So like ones where other Cofagriguses would be off by 1 or 2 HP, so you know, the 138 or the 139 HP allows them to overcome the other thing in the mirror. This thing would just do the extra damage and just take it out. Once again, study the mirror matchup on PvPoke before building this one, if you are considering building this one, to figure out how it behaves in the mirror. And then as an added perk, you get those attack break points from the other section there that I mentioned, so you do flip those matchups. And if people get used to Cofagrigus, I don't think these Pokemon will be expecting you to flip the mirror with such a great attack stat. Once again, I don't exactly advise building this one, but if XL Candy becomes more easy to come by, then definitely something to like mark in your inventory for later, you know? At any rate, that's all I gotta say about Cofagrigus here. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. Once again, study the mirror matchup if you are consider building this.